Al Jazeera, 14th of February 2024, why has desperate China acknowledged the Taliban's ambassador to Beijing? Pakistan had professed to be in control of the Taliban, but that was before the Taliban took over Afghanistan. China is being forced to search new avenues into Afghanistan as a result of Pakistan's decline in standing. A line of foreign ambassadors formed up to give their credentials to President Xi Jinping on January 30 during an official event hosted by the Chinese government in Beijing. One participant among the 309 diplomats was not expected. Following more than 2 years of talks, China recognized former Taliban spokesperson Bilal Karimi as an official envoy to Beijing, making Xi's administration the first globally to do so since the organization took control of Afghanistan in 2021. Since the United States withdrew its military from Afghanistan in 2021, China has been gaining ground there through investments and projects, which helped the Taliban retake control by causing the collapse of the Western-backed Afghan government. However, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs responded quickly, falsely claiming that the acceptance of diplomatic credentials did not indicate Beijing's official endorsement of Afghanistan's existing authorities, as word spread of Beijing's formal approval of the Taliban on January 30. It was already too late. Analysts claim that by then, Beijing's action had given the Taliban, who have been fighting for international recognition of their government, a significant diplomatic victory. The group has maintained its isolation on the global stage since assuming power, primarily because of the limitations it has placed on women's rights and liberties. The Taliban's sanctions by the West have consequently had a disastrous effect on the Afghan economy. What does this entail for the Taliban, and why did China accept Karimi as their envoy to Beijing? China has strong ties to Afghanistan. China has increased its relationship with the Taliban at a time when the majority of the world views the leaders of Afghanistan as outcasts. Numerous Chinese businesses inked innumerable contracts with the Taliban government in 2023. The most notable was a multi-million-dollar oil extraction contract that lasted 25 years and was believed to have cost $150 million in the first year and up to $540 million over the next 3 years. According to Jia Zhou, a Stockholm International Peace Research Institute (SIPRI) researcher, there is a history behind that link. She told Al Jazeera, the Chinese government does not view the Taliban as an unknown entity. They have maintained a working relationship with them, providing arms and weapons against the American forces and with the Taliban as an insurgency group since they reached out to them when they were a pariah government in the late 1990s. Zhou said Beijing's pragmatic, multi-decade relationship with the Taliban is a natural consequence of several considerations, chief among them security. China's security, as a direct neighbor of Afghanistan, is contingent upon the Taliban. The spokesperson stated that it can't afford to enrage or alienate people and has no desire to do so because of values. Furthermore, Beijing is not the only city looking to partner with the group. According to her, the majority of Afghanistan's neighbors share China's view that engagement with the Taliban is preferable to isolation. China's acceptance of the Taliban ambassador clearly indicates that the country has grown accustomed to taking the lead in foreign policy. Opportunity and reality. When the Taliban controlled Afghanistan in the 1900s, many surrounding nations adopted a critical attitude against them. But since its 2021 takeover, realism and opportunity have surpassed as the main drivers of geopolitics, according to Gautam Mukhopadhyay, a senior visiting fellow at the Center for Policy Research in New Delhi and a former Indian ambassador to Kabul, who spoke with Al Jazeera. Realism in the sense that it appears the Taliban is the only player in town right now, he remarked. Even with the Taliban's unpopularity and oppressive tactics, both civil and military opposition to them is virtually non-existent. The U.S. has made it apparent today that it lacks the will, stomach, or compelling geopolitical interests to devote resources to Afghanistan. China is the first nation to recognize a Taliban ambassador officially. However, several other countries have also attempted to work with the Taliban, reopening their diplomatic embassies in Kabul and working with them on humanitarian projects. These nations include Russia, Iran, Turkey, and India. Similar patterns of interaction were noted in a report published last month by the International Crisis Group, ICG, that looked at the Taliban's interactions with its neighbors. According to the study, they are convinced that patient deliberation with Kabul, rather than ostracism, is the best way to secure their country's interests and moderate the Taliban's behavior in the long run. The world is not going to pause and wait for Western opinion to turn against the Taliban. The ICG report quotes a Chinese official saying, "We are here on the front lines." What benefits the Taliban? Afghanistan is heavily dependent on aid. Therefore, the West's hostility, especially in the form of sanctions, has had a negative impact. There is a high rate of hunger and unemployment. In 2024, 23.7 million people are expected to need humanitarian aid. Nearly 30% of the nation's population, or over 13 million people, live in extreme food insecurity, according to data compiled by several international groups. By March, that number is expected to increase to 15.8 million. Comparably, an estimate released in 2022 by the International Labour Organization showed that Afghanistan's GDP had decreased by 35% since the Taliban took power, leading to the loss of almost 900,000 jobs since 2021 and a general increase in unemployment. The Taliban required allies to deal with these challenges. As of today, Muhopadhyaya stated, "It has won. It now has a major power essentially on its side," noted the ex-Indian envoy. Ibrahim Bahis, an International Crisis Group, ICG, analyst, told Al Jazeera that the Taliban would have ideally wanted strong relations with major global powers such as the US and China, and regional powerhouses like Russia and India for various reasons. According to him, China becomes even more crucial for the Taliban now that the US is refusing to cooperate. A circumspect Taliban. Bahis cautioned that the Taliban would come with a great cost from closer connections to China if they fall into the Chinese grip that other countries have discovered to their chagrin. However, both parties are ready to play that game for now. The ICG expert pointed out that the Taliban might still be wary of overtly interacting with Beijing despite their hunger for recognition. According to him, the Taliban are still trying to moderate their relationship with China because they appear to be aware that the more they align themselves with Beijing, the more regional powers, like Russia and India, will be reluctant to deepen their ties with Kabul. This will lead to the very problem of the Taliban's unique foreign backers, which they are desperately trying to avoid. China has become a major force behind the region's outreach and interaction with the Taliban, understandably enough, Bahis continued. The Taliban, however, appear to have fallen into a vicious cycle whereby, as their isolation grows, they increasingly look to China to take the place of the diplomatic influence that the US once supplied.